There was a time in my business where I was stressed out and making mistakes all the time. And the wildest part is that I felt as if I had it all under control or that it was all a part of just being a business owner. And eventually it just became present of something that I had to face. And it took me a little bit longer to learn this lesson, but when I learned this lesson, it was a game changer inside of my business. And what it was is that I started to realize if I continue to just do everything by myself, eventually I would not see my true vision for my business to come to life. And I realized that I had to have a better system if I wanted to see things get better. Welcome back to the Hustle Free Entrepreneur Podcast with Jese Gary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about something that I've been sitting on for a while to discuss on this podcast, and it's all about automation. I don't mean that it's some kind of buzzword with everybody's trying to sell a course kind of way. I mean, in a real practical and sometimes messy way of actually growing your business. And when you can start to adapt to technology, it can be such a beautiful experience when you realize how much more freedom you can have inside of your business by actually implementing tech. I've been using automation now for about a decade inside of my business. And to be very honest, a lot of the tools and CRM and technology was not there, especially for those of us in the event industry years ago. Like, we have been used to using Excel spreadsheets and things of that nature for some time. But now there's this new evolved way of running a business that is a lot more tech focused. When I did first start out, I was using spreadsheets and I started looking at Zapier and I felt like I was doing something fancy when it came to doing that. So it felt like it was working until it wasn't working. And it was, if I had to be honest, which I always want to be, it was a disaster. Yet there just wasn't any options to make it run smoother. So I just want to be honest and share this with you today, because if you're someone that's been really fighting using tech, I hope that today's conversation will really inspire you. So by the end of this episode, my whole goal is that I'm going to help you of understanding how to think about automation in a way that is going to actually serve your business without the overwhelm, without any subscription pileups, because we don't need any more extra cost to run our business, and without sacrificing your client experience that's going to just make your business feel as if it's not human anymore. That's not the goal. So let's get into today's conversation. So let me take you back to how Luxgiving was running back in the day, which is my event business, just in case you're not aware of it. And I was doing everything either through Excel spreadsheets and a notebook. And having to keep on top of when I needed to do follow-ups, client calls, emails, everything was all managed just in a paper day planner. Everything was manual. So if someone changed a contract or invoice multiple times, that meant I had to restart a whole new document and make those changes. So every single thing was built on me. And so, mistakes had to been happening. And here's the thing that no one tells you, that, yeah, you can get it done, but at what cost? How efficient are you really running your business when you have to do everything manually? Yes, I was doing it all for free on these platforms. Yet it took me a lot longer to actually get things done. And we're not going to talk about the accuracy, because there were some issues with accuracy when it came to doing things manually. So what I ended up doing was thinking that if I was touching everything manually, that there probably wouldn't be any mistakes, that everything will be done the exact same way that I wanted it done. And because I was not rushing, or sometimes I was rushing, that so many hours were just being lost in inefficiency. So the first thing that I became present to was the time that it was costing me. So how I was handling every inquiry, every onboarding, copying and pasting emails, every follow-up. I feel like I'm almost overwhelming myself thinking about how that used to feel, which was horrible, horrible, horrible. It feels like it was yesterday, but it was a long time ago. And so I had things sitting in different email boxes and oh, I was just losing emails and it just felt like this is just normal, right? This is what every business owner feels, right? And it wasn't until I was talking to one of my contractors and he had mentioned to me, hey, I just found out about this really great platform, which was 17 Hats. And he was like, oh, this can be a really great platform for you. And I was like, I never heard of these types of things because I only knew of, the big brands that were doing platforms like the Salesforce, and I knew Square was not what it is today. So I was not really looking for any solutions for tech just because I didn't know. And that's something that I become present to even today is that some people are not adapting tech because you're choosing to be stubborn. Some of y'all are, but some of you are not. What I am finding is just that a lot of people just don't know what they don't know when it comes to the right platforms to choose. So I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, if I can have a place where I'm not having to completely keep doing DocuSigns and Panda Docs, and I mean, I tried a lot of different platforms when I really became a little bit more present, and but none of them were communicating to each other. So I knew that I needed to have something that was just going to help with keeping everything in a centralized location so that I could respect my time, but most importantly, eventually get someone to work with me. Because I've shared before on this podcast that I never really started my business for it to just be a local brand. I never went into it to be a local brand. So I knew that I had to find something that was going to help with actually allowing my dreams come true. So once I did start to understand, like, wow, there is tech out there. Let me try different things. Let me see what's out here. Let me find out what's going to be the best fit. And once I did find that solution, I realized like how much time I was wasting doing everything manually. And what I also realized is that automation doesn't have to be a bad thing when you're running your business. In fact, it's really the right thing for you to do inside of your business. So now what I want to do is kind of give you an insider look on what are some of the big breakdowns that I had inside of my business or mistakes that I had inside of my business. So when I first started to embrace using automation, it first came down to what was my biggest pain point. The first pain point that I was actually experiencing was when people were inquiring about my services. I was like, okay, how can I have this a little bit more seamless? Because I felt like I was losing leads. Like I was working hard for people to learn about our brand and our business, but I didn't have any kind of order around that process. So I first looked at what would I want to have inside of my business as a first impression for people that are inquiring. I knew in the corporate space, because I work in the corporate space, a lot of times when people are reaching out to me, they're looking to speak at a time that works best for their schedule. And that's not always the time in which they inquire about my services. So I had to get present to the fact, okay, I need to just have a schedule availability for when people want to set up consultations. And when I meant that, it did not mean, hey, are you free at 4? No, what about 5:30? What about like no, we're not talking about that. I was like, I needed something that people could select a time that worked with them that did not require a bunch of back and forth. So I learned how to tweak, okay, if someone reached out to me, I wanted to make sure I had follow-ups in place because that was important. Because we think that our clients and our potential customers have all the time in the world. You might be like, Jesse, no, I don't feel that way. Based on what I see on social media, yes, y'all do. You feel like, okay, people are just playing and things of that nature. No, people have a lot of things on their plate. They have a big schedule. So sometimes someone might reach out today, but because they got distracted because of something going on in their world right now, they may have forgotten to select a time to actually speak to you. So I had to sit here and think, okay, sometimes people reach out today, but they're not able to set up a consultation. So what I ended up doing was creating a workflow using automation that I had at least two follow-ups after that initial email that just was adding value and finding out a little bit more about their needs and directing them to schedule a time to talk. Once I got clear about that, that took the initial headache of figuring out, did this person call? Did I talk to them? Did I send them a message? Have we scheduled a consultation? That just gave me a little bit more breathing room to understand, like, wow, when someone first interacts with my business, that they will be handled and taken care of in a way that made the most amount of sense for my company. So once I did actually take on that part of the equation, it opened up my mind to what else could be done. How else can I use automation in my business and what could be actually automated? And thinking about what was available back in 2015 compared to 2026, it is an abundance of opportunity to be able to use automation. So here's what I know now that I didn't understand in the beginning. Automation isn't about replacing you. It's not. It's about removing yourself from the work that you are not required to do or to add value to how you provide your services. So there's a difference. It's not about replacing yourself, which does sound scary. I get this in some of my consultation calls and providing services to people because people are like, I don't want to remove like my personal touch and how I talk to people. It's like, it's not to make you feel like you're unnecessary in your own business, but removing yourself from the work that doesn't require your brain, your relationships, your expertise, that is ultimately creating a smart business. That's where you're able to free up your time to do the things that you really should be focusing on and move the business forward. So automations I've had created all were all about creating consistency for not only myself, but my team members as well as my clients. And when you are able to use a platform, it actually adds value to what makes you special. Because we've all been on the other side of the equation where we hire someone to work for us or do something for us, and there's horrible communication. It doesn't even have to be anything fancy. It could have been someone coming to fix your AC or your car got stranded and they do not do communication. So what happens? You got to keep calling. Hey, I just want to make sure someone's coming. I just want to make sure someone's coming. You don't want your client to have that experience with your business either. So when we're putting on the lens of understanding your client journey, automation is to add value. So over the years, of course, I've transitioned from 17 hats to HoneyBook. And honestly, I always say, I don't care what platform you're on in 2026. What I do care for you to be on is a platform. Like, we got to get out of this manual world of running our business. And if you're able to afford the subscription, then we need to be increasing in pricing at a way that we can actually afford our subscriptions so that we're able to take on more clients. So now that I've switched to HoneyBook, I do have the ability to think about what happens when my client comes in, what are the touch points that are necessary, how do I want it to occur, and what's the proper messaging that my client needs to have, all without me having to do these things manually. And when you're building out your automation, it can always be intentional. And once I did start using HoneyBook, I started also looking at platforms that assist me with project management. So platforms like Asana, I do use as well for managing client relations as well as my sales pipeline. So when I started thinking about task management and automation, it automatically came down to how do I want things to be assigned to my team, as well as being able to make sure I'm always staying on top of all of the tasks. And you'll find that the clearer the communication and how well you have it designed, it will allow for you to rinse and repeat things inside of your business each and every time. And of course, we've been seeing a lot of conversation around AI. I know AI has been all over the place. I do use AI as well inside of my business. And I want to give you my honest take on it specifically because I do think that AI is a great option. And I do have mixed feelings around it because we know that what it's doing to the water supply. If you don't know, look that up. So it does alarm me in that capacity, but I do feel as if when we're in a day and age where productivity and efficiency is key. so that you're able to ensure that you're getting compensated correctly for your time, I do believe is an integral part for you because time is money, even more so right now. So, AI is something that I do believe we should be integrating inside of our business. So, not only should we be doing automation, not only should we be looking at productivity tools, but we should be also looking at AI in some kind of capacity that's just able to support us. And it doesn't mean just only ChatGPT. Most CRM platforms right now are starting to use AI in some kind of capacity. Even Asana has AI built into it. So it comes down to if you're using a specific subscription, how can you actually optimize the AI that's inside of that subscription? So ultimately, my stance on all of this is that use what serves your business. I want you to evaluate everything that you're using and have real benchmarks to know how effective it is inside of your business. And I don't want this to be a conversation that is to overwhelm you about all the things you are not doing or the things you are doing, but it's really to give you an understanding about those businesses that are actually integrating these specific items are the ones that will definitely be able to have a great stance inside of 2027 and beyond. I've given you a quick overview of like different platforms that I do like to use, but I want to talk about what does this actually look like in practice inside of your business. And here's how I want you to think about this in your own business. The first thing is that before you sign up for anything, I want you to ask yourself one question. What is taking the most time and causing you the most mistakes in your business right now? Not what's trendy on YouTube videos or people in your circle, but what are you currently experiencing as a pain point inside of your business? So, what is specifically costing you time or causing you errors in your actual work? Get honest with yourself and really think to yourself, what is that pain point? Because that is going to be your starting point. That's going to be the first thing you want to look at. How can you automate it? It's not about tackling everything. It's not about revamping your business in 24 hours. It's all about that one pain point that you can use some relief inside of your company. So for me, as I mentioned, it was client communication, it was the intake, it was the follow up, the onboarding sequence. That was where the leakage was because I was dropping the ball. That's where all of the mistakes were happening. There was time disappearing due to me not having that part of my business organized. So that's where I started. And once that was working, I had to look at what do I want to focus on next, not everything all at once. In fact, I would tell you not to try to focus on everything at once because you will find that once you get that one workflow and you feel confident in what you decided and what you built out and make sure that you're comfortable with it, which is key, then you will find that you're more confident in building out your next automation. The second thing is that before you pay for this tool, I'm going to highly encourage you to use my 90-day rule. I do this inside of my business all the time, and my virtual assistant knows this about me. Is that if I do sign up with something, the goal is to be consistent with it and learn how to use it to the best of my ability within a 90-day period and ask myself afterwards, what do I actually have to show for this and what kind of results came from using that specific platform? So I will always use a subscription that is going to save me time or help with our efficiency. But the only way you know this is actually tracking the kind of results you're getting from using that platform. So if you cannot actually pinpoint a real return on your investment on that subscription, it's not the right tool for you or the right tool for you in this specific season, regardless of what everyone else is talking about. And that is okay. Not every tool is going to be for every business. That's why I said earlier in this episode, I don't care about what CRM you use, but you should be using one because I understand everyone has different learning behaviors. Everyone has different flows and rhythms. It doesn't take away from another platform just because you're not using the one that I use. Because there are other platforms that some people I love and I consume their content. And I've tried the platform and I'm just like, my brain doesn't work that way. I will use its competitor. The third thing is that you want to give yourself grace in the learning process. And I want to say this directly to you because I know how this industry can feel and I know how it feels to be a business owner. We can find ourselves looking to the left or the right and looking at other business owners talk about the tech they're using and the platforms that they're using and the success in which they're achieving. And it can feel like they have it all figured out while you may be struggling with getting the basics. And I'm going to let you know, you're not behind at all. And you're not in a competition with anyone else because at the core of it, you're learning, you're growing through this process. Everyone has different life experiences that give them a head start or allows for them to go through a journey a little bit different than the person that's next to them. For example, a year ago, I kept hearing everyone talk about AI agents. I understand what an agent is. I saw that Zapier had AI agents. I was like, I can figure this out. I'm going to learn this. This is going to help me save so much time. And I learned and I learned, and it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And I realized that I could do what I was trying to do better in using ChatGPT. So I just did it in ChatGPT. So it's not about me doing my business like anybody else or using the same platforms as anybody else. It's about finding the best platforms for myself and my team to be able to get the things in which we need to get done. So this is why you want to take 90 days so you give yourself time to learn how to use what you're subscribing to. So the goal is not about mastery, it's about gaining the confidence and using the platforms you're going to be using. So a little more time may make you feel more confident each and every month that you are using the platform. So don't beat yourself up. That's enough to continue moving forward. And it gets better every time you show up. And then the last thing that I'll say is watch your subscriptions. I've been very intentional about this. I am not anti technology by no means. I will check out a new app in a heartbeat, but I am anti waste. I am very present to if I'm investing in a tool, it has to have an ROI. And if I'm not using it right now, I just unsubscribe to it. And the reason why I'm not using it may be because that is not a focus right now as well. So it's not about just having subscriptions. Is about using tools that are going to help your business move forward. So you don't need to keep just paying for things just to pay for it. But I do encourage you, if you signed up for a subscription because you needed help with a specific challenge, then it's important to learn how to use the platform to help you with that challenge. And that's why I recommended for you earlier in this conversation to not get overwhelmed with trying to make all of the changes now at one point. Just do one at a time, get confident with each and every workflow to be able to know what's working and what is not working. So here's what for you to take from this conversation. Stop doing things manually just because you've always done them manually and everyone else is doing it manually. In fact, I always have this joke in a way that I say that in the event industry, we're so used to chaos that we just think that things are just naturally supposed to be chaotic instead of looking for a way for things to be a little bit more seamless, at least the things in which you're able to control. So I'm going to encourage you to stop doing things manually just because you've been doing it manually for all this time because it's about being loyal to the purpose of you starting your business. You want to be able to have control over the quality in the services that you provide, as well as the communication. You want to build up strong habits that are going to be productive for the long run of your company. And these habits have to serve you and your customers in the best way. So automation isn't about just replacing you. It's about what makes the most amount of sense with what you do. It's about perfecting your time and energy so you can actually show up great. The client experience is all about what kind of client experience you want to be known for. And ultimately, it gets better when you're not exhausted all the time. the quality that you're proud of, the brand that you're proud of, the services that you're proud of. It's about getting more consistent when you're not rushing through things because you're committed to doing things manually. It's time to embrace technology. And when I first started, it was doing things manual. It was using platforms like Google and Excel. It started with using Zapier, then it went to 17 Hats, and now a decade later, I'm using platforms and systems that are really helping to relieve the stress of running a business. And I want to implore you to understand that this wasn't overnight. It was a continuous journey to keep learning to get better for my customers and my team. So you don't have to overhaul everything today. You just need to fix that one thing to take your first step forward. It's about that one thing that's going to help with removing the mistakes and causing the overwhelm. It's the one thing that's going to help with just making your business 1% better each and every day. That's where I want you to start. And if nothing else lands today, let that sit with you. You don't have to earn the right to work smarter. You've already earned it and you deserve it. If you're sitting there today thinking, okay, but where do I actually start? I made something for that. My After Yes checklist is intended to help give you guidance and direction as to what to do after you get a new client. Let's start to remove the gaps that are occurring inside of our workflow. And the best part about this checklist, it's free and you'll understand what to do within 10 minutes to start applying into your business today. And it's the fastest way to see where your automations can improve and make the biggest difference inside of your business. And the link is going to be in your show notes so you can check it out. So that's it for this one. Until the next time we talk.